Yo, and welcome to another video. I'm going to keep this as short, sweet, and simple as possible, as always. So this video is about how to buy companies with no money down. So if you've ever thought about buying a company, you need to watch this video. I'm going to show you how to do it without investing your own money. So it doesn't matter whether you're a complete beginner or you're already in business, you can apply this same model. Maybe you can change a few parts if you're in business already. But if you're a complete beginner, maybe you're currently working a job, you're not employed, maybe you've had some fun with crypto, who knows? And now you want to start buying companies, the real way to build wealth, then watch this video. I'm going to show you how to do it with no money down. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to use my 3C process, which is something that I've developed over, after being involved in $100 million in transactions. I've been in banking. I'm running my own healthcare company. If you don't know who I am, my name's Josh Lee, the one and only. Anyway, let's get into it. Ooh, there we go. All right, first thing that you need to do is pick your industry. So if you're a beginner, you aren't in business yet, find an industry for you to go into. I think I need to sneeze. No, I think I'm okay. Find an industry, a traditional, stable industry. I've got a few points here. You can read the slide yourself. But essentially, you want to look at industries where there's high fragmentation, there's a big volume, there's a big market size for you to play in, and where there are a lot of retiring owners. So right now, if you don't know, I've explained this before on my Instagram, on other channels. We're going through the silver tsunami, right? There's millions of businesses worldwide that are ready or looking, where the owners are looking to sell or looking to retire, and they need someone to take over their business. And most of their kids don't want it, right? So think things like healthcare, logistics, transport. These traditional and services, trades, right? These traditional industries, they're not going away anywhere anytime soon. AI is not going to take over. They're going to stay in business for a long time. They're printing money, and they will continue to print money for decades. Now, if you're already in business, maybe you're already a healthcare owner, you've got a business in transport, you can ignore this, right? You're already in the right playing field. Step 2. This is the first C, capabilities. Building your team, your dream team, your elite team, your team of players, the people that are going to help you bring credibility to you and your company, give you wisdom and guidance as to how to actually facilitate a roll-up, right? Because the model that I'm teaching now is the roll-up, like buying up companies, lots of companies in the same industry, and going for an exit, maybe in 5, 10, 15, however many years you want, right? Building up a platform of companies and exiting to private equity, a strategic buyer, or even going public. Your team is going to help you go through that whole process. Now, if you're just starting out, how do you actually get people without paying them anything? This is the key, free founders equity, right? You're finding people who are top-notch at what they do, right? So from the chairman through to your finance guy, legal guy, industry experts, these are people that have been there, done that. They understand what they're doing. They're experts in their field. You recruit them using your energy, enthusiasm, your vision, and you're offering them free founders equity, right? So they can get in on the ground level at no cost basis to grow the company with you. Now, the second part to your team is your external team. So the people that you're giving equity to, this is your internal team, right? Your board of directors or advisors or partners. The external team, you're going to be your accountants and lawyers, right? You're going to need good accountants, good lawyers. Not good, you need excellent accountant and lawyers to do all the formal work, right? The accountants are going to help you do the due diligence, quality of earnings, and your lawyers are going to do the sale contracts, the employment contracts, all the legal bullshit. I'm no expert. Right? That's why you pay these guys to do it properly. And I think if you want to make big money, you've got to do things properly. All right? If there's a lot of shit online talking about making money, doing guerrilla shit, doing black hat like tricks. that can make you, $1, $2, $3 million. But like, if you want to make 10, 50, $100 million, or even $1 billion, you need to do shit properly. You can't cut corners. You can't like do black hat bullshit. Don't do that. Now, what time is it? I do have to run into a meeting now, and I will continue this video when I come back. Now, how do you get these elite legal guys and accounting guys to do work with you without paying them upfront? You do something called delayed or rolled fees. This means you don't pay anything upfront, you get them to do the work, and then you pay them later. Now, the secret to getting the delayed and rolled fees is actually having the credibility behind you. And that is why a board of directors, advisors, or partners is important, because then you have big names attached behind your company to give you the credibility to get these kind of deals with firms like KPMG, EY. Okay, the next part to the model, C number 2, capital. Now, unlike traditional startups, where when it comes to the capital side of things, people try to raise money from investors, institutions. With this model that I'm teaching, we're using what we call the LBO, right? The leveraged buyout model. We're buying companies using debt. So we don't need to raise money per se. We need to interview and establish relationships with bankers, with lenders, and understand the parameters that they like to use, so we can go out to the market when we're making offers and drumming up deals. We can use this information that we're getting from the lenders to then make the right offers to ensure that we can close them. Right? So most people, the traditional way of buying businesses, people will go look for deals and then go to a bank and say, hey, I need money. And that's when the banks put you in two separate categories, right? They put you in the category of serious deal maker versus some Joe Schmo. With the Joe Schmoes, they're going to want your personal guarantee, they're going to want your property, and they're going to want you to basically sell your soul to the bank to get the money. When you're a serious deal maker, they're going to weight their decisions based on your team and the deal that you present. Rather than you as the individual, they're going to look at the deal itself. So with this part of the process, once you actually have your team, your internal team and your external team, when you're going out to all the bankers, you're interviewing them, you're establishing relationships, you're interviewing them to understand their parameters and their lending processes, right? So you're trying to understand DSCRs, ICRs, their lending processes, whether they're a centralized credit team or a branch-based credit decision maker, right? And by the way, if you want all the in-depth stuff, right? In-depth, step-by-step stuff, I teach all of this in my private community, the Owners Academy, and of course to my consulting clients with my consulting firm, G&L. All that stuff should be in the description below. So if you want in-depth stuff, then you can head over to the links there. So this video, I'm going to just go through exactly what you need to do step by step, high level. So right, you build your team, now you go look for money. Now you don't need to raise anything, you don't need to present business plans, you don't need to go with detailed, hey, this is our exact strategy. You're establishing relationships, you're interviewing to gather data. Now the next part of the process, the closing process. Now once you've built your team, you understand the lending parameters and the financing that's available to you and within your industry, you're going to go through the closing process. Now, I would say stay away from the traditional closing process where most small business and medium business buyers, they'll go to brokers, right? They'll go to brokers, and also, even if they're not going through brokers, a lot of sellers expect some kind of deposit. Exactly like buying a house. It's like, for whatever reason in the business buying world, people expect you to put a deposit down when you're looking at the deal. Now, my process is a 5-step process where we don't need brokers, we don't need deposits. And of course, we don't need to put money down into the deal. So what that process looks like here. So step one is off-market search, right? We don't need to go to brokers. We don't need to go to the public market. We go straight to the sellers ourselves. We have that direct relationship with the seller. The reason why you want to do this is so you have the ultimate leverage, right? You don't have a middleman finger fucking the deal or trying to get their commission. You're just talking straight to the seller, helping them with their needs, getting them a deal that works for both sides. Now, so first step, you literally just cold call, email, door knocking even, right? Go straight to the businesses, straight to the sellers. So this model isn't if you're lazy, right? You got to actually do the work. And especially if you want to do it no money down, right? Do the work, put the shoe leather in, and reach sellers directly. Now, once you do reach a seller directly, and you ask them, hey, do you want to sell? They say yes. Second step, you do sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement. Get their financials, right? You want to get their at least 3 years worth of financials and their tax returns. If a seller's willing to give you these two things, you know they're motivated to sell, right? You know they're willing to have that conversation. You know, whether they're truly motivated to sell or not, or if they're just tire kicking and they're just trying to see what their business is worth on the market. Either way, if they're willing to give you these numbers, they're willing to do a deal, for the most part. Now, once you get the NDA signed, you get their financials, 3 years financials, tax returns. Now you can actually make an offer, right? Once you've seen the numbers, you can make an offer. You submit offers in the form of an LOI or an NBIO. When you submit an offer, I personally like to negotiate upfront as much as you can, right? Because the worst thing is getting an offer signed and then you go through due diligence and then you're negotiating at the close. When you can negotiate most of the deal up front, the due diligence is easy, right? You just investigate the business, and then when it comes to the closing time, when you're actually signing the contract to put it into a legally binding contract, then you're not going back and forth and wasting all this time with the lawyers, and you've got all this stuff agreed up front. And most business owners are pretty honorable, right? Like they're gonna honor their word when you negotiate up front. So try to do all this stuff up front in the NBIO or the LOI. Once you do get that LOI signed, you want to go through due diligence. Now, depending on whether you're just doing a 100% vendor finance deal or you're taking it to the banks to get financing up front, that's how you dictate whether you use the accountants or just your board, right? So if you've recruited the right people for your company, for your board, for your internal team, you should just be able to do the due diligence for businesses up to, say, $3 or $5 million. Your team should be able to help you do that. You should be able to do that with your team. If you're going to get the financing from the banks, though, that's when you use your accounting firm and use them to get a quality of earnings. Use them to present the deal on your behalf, right? Because that's the credibility that you'll need to get terms favorable to you and avoid the personal guarantees, avoid putting your house up for security, avoid signing your soul over to the bank, right? When you get, the KPMG or the EY to present on your behalf, the banks are going to look at that and be like, oh shit, okay, these guys are serious players. So the due diligence phase, the key thing is quality of earnings and maintainability of earnings, right? How solid is the revenue? How solid is the income? And what's the maintainability of that? Like, once you actually go through with the sale, what happens then? Whatever the seller takes, if the seller leaves, the business owner, sorry, once they leave, how stable is the business post-transaction? That's really what you're looking for, because you want to ensure there's stable cash flow after you buy it, right? So you can, for one, pay back the debt that you've arranged, whether it's a vendor finance deal or through the banks. You want to be able to pay that debt back, and of course, you want to put some money in your pocket and pay your team. You want to be able to have some money to grow the business as well, to put more money in your pocket, right? That's the whole point of due diligence. There's also another aspect of due diligence where you're knocking the price down, because a lot of the stuff that you see in the financials, you're going to find things to discount your initial valuation, right? So let's say you value a business at $5 million upfront. go through due diligence, you're probably going to find that, hey, you're going to knock this away. Hey, there's a problem here. And the final valuation you get up to after DD might be 4.3 million, right? So this is why it's also important to negotiate as much upfront, because once you go through due diligence and get to the closing process, you're going to have to go through some secondary negotiations afterwards. So due diligence, you go look at the business, you investigate for booby traps, you find some things, you knock the price down a little bit. The sellers usually say, okay, yep, I understand. And now once you get to the closing process, once you put the deal into a contract, once you get the lawyers involved, the lawyers are going to nitpick everything as well, right? So the lawyers are going to go through what they call contractual negotiations, and they're going to try to negotiate with the other party's lawyers. And when lawyers start talking about this stuff, they could go on for years. And their intent is to actually go through, like, fine comb everything, because for one, they're trying to protect your interests as a client, and same thing with the other side's lawyers. But they're also trying to jack up their fees too. So you want to eliminate as much of the fee jacking as possible. Eliminate as much of that as possible. So as much negotiation upfront as possible. There's going to be an element of negotiation after due diligence with the seller, and then the closing. In the contractual negotiations, you wanna be a leader and push the deal forward, right? You're gonna have to tell the sellers, sorry, not the seller. You're gonna have to tell the lawyers, hey, me and the seller, we've already negotiated all this stuff. We're happy to compromise on these, on XYZ. Let's move forward, right? So the lawyers are going to do their thing. There are going to be some things that you want to listen to, but then for the most part, there are going to be things that you're going to be happy to compromise on. The seller's going to be happy to compromise on, and you guys have to tell the lawyers, let's get the deal done. So this is my 5-step process to actually efficiently close deals, away from the traditional sense where you're going through brokers, you're getting valuers, you're putting deposits down, you're wasting time and you're wasting money. All right, this way, you're reviewing businesses, making offers, going through due diligence, closing without paying a single cent upfront. Because remember, with the deal with the lawyers is you're doing all the work on a delayed or rolled fees basis, so you're paying everyone, and even if you're going through due diligence and you're using the accountant to present on your behalf, get the quality of earnings, go through DD for you, you're paying them using the cash flow of the business after you close the business. Now, the key mindset here. You guys can read the slide yourself, but the principles I want you to understand is, yep, I've added this little point at the end. You can't actually see it. I'm blocking it. But money is the smallest lever in the game. The thing that really pushes this whole model is your leadership and your credibility behind you, right? So your leadership to actually get the right people behind you on your board, your leadership to push for good terms with the accountants, with the lawyers, with the sellers, that's leadership, right? It's not about how smart you are, right? It's not about how much money you have. It's about how well you can present the vision and how well you can lead the people to a close. And then ultimately, how strong the deals are, right? How strong the deals are when you present to the banks, right? You've got a good deal in front of you. You've got a great team behind you. You've got everything going. It's up to you to present to the banks properly to secure the money. Now, here's your turn. So this is my little call to action to you. Yeah, after you watch this video, I've got plenty of other material in my Telegram, across my other YouTube videos, but you can basically take to start implementing all this stuff yourself. So if you've ever thought about buying a company and you're trying to save up for it, or maybe you're looking at putting up your property as security, or maybe you're in business already, you've got savings and you're looking at expanding and you're like, okay, I've got 500,000, I've got $1 million in the bank, let's buy our competitor. I want you to use this model to rethink your strategy to avoid putting up that hard-earned cash for your next deal, right? So starting from the top, if you're not in business already, pick your industry, look for something that's stable. Now, if you're already in business already, now you start the second step, build your team. If you don't have a good management team in place, if you don't have a board of directors, get them. They might not even give you might already know what to do, but from the outside perspective, right, from the bank's perspective, they're looking at someone with the track record, and they're looking at people with the credibility and the network and the resources behind them. Right, so that's why a team's important. And then actually doing the deal. Maybe you've got a team in place already. Start implementing my process, my 5-step closing process. You don't need to use brokers. You don't need to put deposits down, and you structure deals that are favorable to you, right? If you don't like the deal, if the sellers don't like the deal, next. If you're in these big fragmented industries where there's thousands of businesses, where if you're in the US, if you're in Europe, if you're in a major city, there are literally thousands of whatever business you choose. In the traditional industry, healthcare, there's going to be thousands of clinics for you to choose from. If you go into services, right, there's going to be thousands of service businesses for you to choose from. Structure deals that are favorable to you and that allow you to actually close them with no money down. So just to recap, build your team, pick an industry, build your team, and go through the closing process. It is really as simple as that. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible. So many people like to overcomplicate deals, and especially the geeks, right? The geeks with economics background, finance background, legal background, to say, oh, no money down deals are impossible. But I've done it. I've got guys in my network all across the world, across EU, across the US, who have done no money down deals. Some people might take a little bit longer. Some people, I've got a friend that closed 2 deals in 23 days. He's in Boston. He's in home healthcare. 23 days, 2 deals. He also got, and these were 100% vendor finance. He also got $500,000 from the banks for working capital. Right, so it really depends on your leadership. Depends on how you structure the deals. That's what determines your success with this model. Now, if you want more in-depth stuff, obviously you can go through my other videos on my YouTube. You can go through my Telegram. You can go through my Instagram. I share all this stuff. You can kind of gather bits and pieces and piece it all together for yourself. But if you want more structured learning, if you want all the in-depth stuff, go into my private community. The link will be in the bottom below, in the description below. My private community, the Owners Academy, I'll go live on a very regular basis to answer questions, to coach you through the whole process. I've got all the resources, all the scripts, all the templates, all the frameworks that I personally use, all the shit that my network uses. That's all there available in my private community. And if you want more guided, if you want my help implementing the process, me and my team will actually help you source deals, help introduce you to the financiers, help you structure deals personally, then you can also reach out to me directly and we can organize a call, see if we're the right fit, and see if we can implement our processes, our frameworks, our work directly to you. So here's to the action takers. Hope you find a lot of value out of this. Look forward to, let me know once you've done your first no money down deal.